Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have an august group in front of me, I can tell. A couple of little ground rules, particularly with the number that we've got in the room. We have time set aside for anybody who wants to speak once the agenda overall has been completed. I would very much appreciate we keep side comments down and let us go through the business process, and then we'll give you the opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting. With that, I want to call to order the, I'm sorry? Can you turn the microphone, let go up any in volume?
I want to say you have a volume button on your microphone with the plus.
I may have. Is that better?
Yeah.
Cool in the back?
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Too much.
Bad for you? You're right.
Look.
So we're calling to order the October 25th, 2021 Cherokee Village SID Commissioners Meeting. And the first order of business is the approval of the agenda.
I know we approved the agenda.
A second.
Got a motion to approve on that.
That's loud now. Is that loud now?
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So that's approved. Now we need to approve the September 2021 meeting agenda minutes, which is here.
That one is your October 4th special meeting. The one in front of it was your September meeting.
These are the ones we already approved, or is this, do we need to move?
No, that's it.
There's the one. There's one right there.
Did I call for an approval of that? Did I call for an approval of that?
No, not the second one.
Okay, you didn't.
So I'll entertain.
Okay.
I move we approve the minutes of September 20th meeting.
Yeah, I second it.
Been moved that we approve and seconded that we approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. So they're approved. Under old business, and we're going to get right into it. As everybody knows, the settlement was approved. It's been ratified. It is law. With that brings a whole new wave of trying to figure out the assessments because they're new going forward. So we've got to set the levy, and we need to do it today for Fulton County and Sharp County to be able to start picking up the assessment of benefits for us. So Tim, you want to?
Yeah, I want this, can everybody hear me? Okay. So the first thing I would ask the other two board members is that we not vote on this levy percentage. We can have this conversation right now, but wait until the end to vote on it. Because I would like to, I think people may have questions or comments before we vote. I would hate to vote and make it official and then let somebody comment. I think that's kind of backwards. That's just my opinion. What do you think?
You want to move this agenda item?
Kind of. We can talk about it now. Let's talk through it. My issue is that I don't want to vote on it before we hear whoever has a comment about levy percentages, is my only question. So
I'm worried about having a conversation and then putting a vote off until the end of the meeting.
or at least until the end of old business.
So let's go
Yeah, let's have the conversation, or you want to move it to,
We'll move it back.
again, but I want comments. They have to be able to comment on what, so once we have the conversation about levy percentages, then I want to be able to have, I want to listen to comments before, does everybody get that? I want to listen to comments before we vote, is all I'm saying, so,
I'm fine with that.
okay. So we'll start with the conversation
Okay,
about levy percentages.
go for it.
So in our budget, we all understand the 7,400 cap and the 3,400 cap. We have a couple of questions, a couple of things that we have to talk through, things that we have to work through attorney-wise and some things. For example, because we're now using land value, there are 47 properties that now do not have land value. The Entergy does not have land value because they're not charged from the county. So when we go in and see who does not have land, there are 47 properties in town that do not have land value through the county because they're not charged taxes. They have been paying SID fees this whole time, and now they will not, according to the settlement. So we're trying to figure out what to do with those 47 properties. In addition, there are commercial properties that used to have an assessment the old way, and that old commercial assessment was $8,400. Well, if we go by what the settlement says, those commercial properties, none are on the water or a golf course. So they're capped at $3,400. So now we have commercial properties that could be at a higher assessment, but they're not because of their land value and because they're capped, because they're not on the water or the golf courses. Those are a couple of questions we need to work through, but deciding the levy percentage can be fine today. It's just those two things we're working through. So that said, where we are today, following the settlement exactly, is the levy percentage. If we charge everybody with the expenses that we currently have today, according to our budget, if we go into around the 8 to 8.5% range, we're about break even. And I think I mentioned that in our last meeting. And break even does not allow us to fix anything. Obviously, other expenses are being looked into, but those can't happen right away. So what we need to find out, what we need to decide amongst us is what levy percentage do we charge? It is my opinion that we charge, in this first year, that we charge the full 10%. I think that we need that few $100,000 to fix our amenities, get started on fixing them right now. There's a roof leak in this place. We need to fix it.
One.
And we have a pool situation here we need to remedy. And it's my opinion that we charge that full 10%. Again, and I'm just going to follow this up by saying, I'm thinking that because I think that if you look 5 years down the road, once the amenities are repaired and repaired properly, that levy percentage is voted on once a year. And once the amenities are fixed, properly maintained, we've improved our efficiencies in places that are costing us more money than others, then we can lower that number. I can imagine in 3 or 4 years, we would lower that into the 5 and 6% range, which is much more effective for all of us. But for now, we need the money to make these repairs and to fix things.
Could we hold till we get all this discussed?
Yeah.
I mean, get it out there and then.
Yeah, then you can, that's what we're talking about first, and then you can, when we do comments.
I
That's all I have.
would modify that just slightly. While we know what's wrong today, we don't know what's going to be wrong tomorrow. And keep remembering that we're dealing with 50-year-old infrastructure, and I don't know what leak may come next. So I'm convinced there's going to, the ability to maybe be able to reduce that levy should be what we strive for ardently. I don't know the magic bullet on that. I really don't. So just kind of keep that in mind if you would.
Yep.
I agree with those remarks that, Lieutenant promised that within 5 years it'll be 5%. I think that's, you're getting out on a limb that's going to get cut off behind this real quick.
And I'll add to that by saying I don't want to borrow money. I don't want another assessment. I don't want to do a second assessment. I don't want to take out a bond issue for what we currently have and then pay that back over time. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just build the money now, figure out what our expenses are, manage them better, and get our amenities in order in the next 12 months. And then look and see what next year looks like. And we can take that levy percentage down as we go. So that's my thought. So before we vote, move on to the next one and then go on to, unless you had any more comments, Jim or
No,
Joe.
I'm fine.
Okay.
My question is, do you want to vote now or do you want to vote later?
I want to hear comments first. I want to hear comments before we vote. So
Okay.
do you want to do comments now? I'm fine with
I'm
that.
fine with that.
Here's the issue.
Point of order, could you come up with a percentage that you're thinking that you're wanting to vote on so we can?
I
Yeah.
thought
We just did 10.
Well, can we improve that? Can we go to 12?
No.
Why not?
Only states 10,
No.
law states 10.
Hey, get
10
it done.
10 is-
Like he said,
Paul.
get it done.
Scott,
Hey,
10 is
listen.
the highest we can charge. We can't charge any more than 10.
Oh, that's part of the agreement.
that's part of the.
That's what I
No,
wanted to
that's
know.
part of the,
That's what I
that's
wanted
part
to
of an
know.
improvement district.
Listen, I have to dictate this meeting at the end, so it's really hard when we speak up because I don't know who's speaking. I can't do your comments, so if y'all would please.
So if you have a
step
question,
up to
if you have a
the
question, you need to
microphone
come up to the
and
to the
say your
podium.
name. And
Because
say your name.
we
Thank
can't
you.
dictate. It's got, your comments have to be in the minutes of the meeting, and I didn't realize that last time. So they should be in it. You need to, if you want to have a question, you got to come up to the podium.
Yeah, just step up there and say your name
Okay.
first, please.
Is it on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Let me double check.
Yeah, what's up, media guy?
Yeah, well, I do own land in Cherokee Village.
Oh, there you go.
So the question
Okay,
is,
let me turn green. Hold on one second.
the question
Your
is,
name, please?
my name is Peter Martin, address 17 Geronimo.
Okay.
The question is, at the 10% level, how much does that, what kind of money would that equate to taxes as in the past, prior to the last assessment? So are we going back to levels like the last assessment? Or are we going somewhere in between your last new assessment and the last assessment? Does that
So,
make sense?
what is your question specifically?
So okay, so there was a big raise when everything got reassessed.
Yes.
And for people that are on fixed incomes, they had to tighten their belts and get rid of what they couldn't afford to do. And I know a lot of people in the city have done that. So I am asking, is this going to be lower than the assessment that was for last year? Or is it going to be closer to the assessment we had before you reassessed?
That's, I'm gonna take a small cut at this.
Okay,
It is harder than heck to anticipate because it's not a one-size-fits-all anymore. Those people who live on a lake, have property on a lake, your assessment are gonna go up
Yeah, quite a bit.
quite a bit. For those that are on a golf course, those people that have property on a golf course, your assessments are going to go up. Not as much as the lake, but not too far behind. Everybody else's assessment, interior lot, is going to go significantly down. Guess how many lots are on a lake versus the lots that are interior?
understood.
7x. So the revenue stream out of those assessments is not going to be anywhere near what you think it is. The other extenuating circumstances are the 47 properties that are currently not land-based properties that are on the rolls are intact commercial electricity,
Churches.
water.
Churches, hospitals,
We don't know what we can do with that because the settlement says it has to be land-based values or tax values. There is none. Doesn't exist. There are right-of-ways or easements that may come into play with that, but we don't know. There's no law that we can go to say this is what's gonna, it'll produce for you, this is what you can do. This is pretty virgin territory we're plowing.
So until you do it once, you really won't know.
We won't know.
Thank you.
That's the difficulty. Yes, sir.
Get up there.
Okay.
You want me to talk over there, I'll go over and talk.
Okay, there we-
Thank
Do
you.
you even need a microphone?
Yeah. I don't want to talk to you. First question I have, how can you even come up with an assessment if you don't have a budget? What's your budget for next year? What's your projected budget?
We have one.
And you have one?
Sure.
Are you going to share it with everybody for next year?
Well, we have to set the levy percentage first.
Let me ask the question a different way. On your projected budget, when you do your 10% assessment, are you going to be above budget, below budget, what? And that's based on what you know. And I understand you don't know what's going up. I understand it too.
Right.
I also understand, you talk about replacing things, like fixing the pools here and stuff like that. Is that the right thing for us to do this year?
Good question.
Until we understand better, because like you said, most of the people in the town don't live on a lake, don't live on a golf course, okay? They're the voters of this town, okay? So we need to understand what the general populace really wants before we start saying we're gonna do this or do that. So that's my questions about, give us some information on where you're gonna spend the money and how you're gonna get the permission for it from the voters.
Yeah, here's my.
Not just for 5 people, so.
I can answer that as best I can. First of all, it's the people, once we get 5 commissioners up here and they start deciding what's going to be done, we're not going to be fixing pools without 5 commissioners that are elected. So I would pay attention to future commissioners, what their pitch is, what they want to do, how they see this village. Do you want to build out here in the western part of the village for future growth, or do you want to take all your money and put it into more of the Thunderbird Center that's around 85% of the current town? That's a good question, and that has to be taken care of. That voted on by not just us 3, so that handles that. Concerning the budget, yes, we have a budget. There have been more properties sold recently, and those are not in our numbers because they're not from the county yet. But we believe at that 8 and 8.5% range, if we charge, we're going to about break even. And I said that in my earlier comments. If we charge the full 10%, we'll be in that $300,000 to $400,000 range to make some repairs, $100,000 to the roof and other things. So that's kind of where our budget sits. But again, it has to do with these 47 properties. We have to figure out how those are. Are we able to charge a higher assessment to commercial properties that are not on the water or a golf course? These things have to be settled probably in the next week.
Well, I think if you can share the budget with the populace and say, hey, this is the budget, and here's where we're projecting the money to have to go, this much, $100,000, whatever, that's gonna help the overall situation a great deal.
Yeah, no, we can share it today. We just have to, again, we have to set the levy to figure out how much money's coming in. And again, it's coming in from different areas now, so it's gonna look different, and we don't even know what that's gonna look like until it actually comes in.
Okay, thank you.
Your
Appreciate
name,
it.
sir? What was your
Oh,
name?
Philip Detus.
Thank you, sir.
Beverly Moody. She know my big,
Broke it. Broke it.
It took you long to break it, didn't it?
That's going to cost.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Write it out.
thank you.
Beverly Hills.
Of course, you know my big argument with people on the lakes and golf courses paying the big bucks, and then everybody that's not, they're going down significantly. And we've had this conversation, I'm just gonna repeat it. The city is pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. They're not going, oh, well, let's fix town hall, and let's fix this, and let's just make everybody pay all this, and let's fix it right now. They're pulling themselves up by the bootstrap because, and there's still a deficit that they're working on. Unlike Sid, who wants all the money up front so we can have this little nest egg in case something happens, something doesn't happen. There's just such a big difference of this person's gonna pay $49 and this person's gonna pay close to $1,000. I don't live on Lake Thunderbird.
No, well, those are
I don't
terrible
know.
numbers, Beverly, you know that.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
Those don't make any sense.
Well, I'm gonna be paying close to $1,000.
That's because you have more than one lot.
I have a half a lot.
Well, I can
and a
only
lot,
talk
and I
one
do
lot
not
to
live
lot,
on
so.
Lake Thunderbird.
But when you tell people you're gonna be paying 1,000 versus somebody else paying 50, that's not true.
Well, okay, it's gonna be a lot less if you live off the lake.
Correct.
Correct.
That's per the settlement. That has nothing to do with SID. These
Who
three
set
guys,
the settlement?
these three guys
Campground?
did not,
Okay, him?
it's
Mark?
already done, yeah.
Yeah,
So we can't change that. What we can change is the levy percentage as the years go on. So our goal is to fix what we can fix what we have to fix, and then we reduce that levy percentage. And if we can get that levy percentage down to 5 or 6, lakefront owners will pay, $400. We want to get there, but we have to fix our amenities, and we have to work on our expenses.
I understand that, but I'm very prudent with my money. And I don't spend when I don't need to. It's not my fault. It's not the lake property and the golf property owner's fault. It's not our fault. We didn't say, hey, let's pay the fire department and the street department. Let's include the street department in our assessment. We didn't have a vote on that. I know you two don't remember it, but I know Joe does, because it was set there, and I commend you for saying, let's have a conversation before we vote on it. Because that's what started the whole lawsuit to begin with.
Sure.
Because they didn't have a conversation.
Right.
And didn't include us in it, and I appreciate that greatly. But there's such a difference. I don't see how y'all can say that that's okay.
What do
The
you?
difference if you don't live on a lake and you do live on a lake, or a golf course.
We did not decide that.
Well, your attorney had a little bit to do with it. He didn't say, no, that's wrong. He went, okay,
All right. The alternative was we go to trial.
right?
The judge has already stated that he would have voted for the plaintiff or judged for the plaintiff.
For Sid,
There would be no SID.
right,
It'd be gone.
right.
Then you might wonder what's going to happen to my golf course that's here, my building over here. It'd be gone.
Well, some of the amenities need to be gone.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Beverly, but we want to take care of that ourselves. We didn't want it to be taken out from under us like a rug.
So
So,
I understand that, but you've got a legal assessment that was done. Y'all agreed that there was an illegal assessment done with the streets in it. So now we're coming to this new land value, or assessed land value is gonna be our new guide to go by.
Please.
The wording in
Mr.
the
Griffin.
assessment, or the wording in the, I think, y'all might need to go back and look at that, because they were talking after the city council meeting, and I think it's, the assessed, I think it's gonna be 11% instead of what y'all are thinking y'all are gonna get. Just the verbiage in it.
What do you?
I don't know what you're
I'll
talking
show
about.
it to you later. But I just wanted it on record that I've got a problem with that. And I know the streets aren't in it anymore, but if you live on that highway, you're always gonna have a good road. Can be said for the rest of us, and I know the streets are out of it. If you live on the river, you've got a water view. I know the river's not in with SID.
Okay.
But you have different amenities that are a village amenity, that's not covered by SID, that people have access to that the rest of us don't. I don't have a boat. I don't have access to any other lakes unless I want to swim. I got a pool noodle.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thanks, Beverly.
Yes, sir.
Just come stand in line now.
My name is Jerry Smith. I have just a simple question. Anytime that I had to balance a budget of any kind, I always looked at where we can save. And I would like to know your viewpoints on how we can save money or eliminate things that aren't really needed or used or whatever. I'd like to have your comments on that.
Sure. You guys,
Can I speak on that?
sure?
Mr. Smith, today is my first day of my 4th week, but I can promise you that part of me coming to work and tackling this position is to look at those things. We are going to itemize, I'm going to look at every possible way to save, to be more efficient. I'm going to look at employment, health insurance, cars insurance, every aspect of our expenses is going to be reviewed before we move forward with our next budget. It is the only way we're going to be successful. We all live on a budget. We should have all been living on a budget all along. And every area that I can look at that I can save money, I will bring it to the table. It will be discussed. Y'all will know where we're going to be cutting. I just haven't had an opportunity to really dig that deep into it because we haven't known what I'm going to have income-wise to work with. Is that a good answer for it? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm Scott Sandifer. Tim, I was wanting to get on the record what you told me just now, that 10% is the highest that you can charge.
Yes.
Okay. Because as far as I'm concerned, we can charge 12. You know?
Legally, we can't charge more than 10.
Okay. And I agree with you that, you know, we got to be prepared. We got to have money set aside to take care of things that we can't see coming. That's important. Especially, and I think everybody should understand that this place has more leaks. And every time you wait, you push it off, it's going to get more expensive to fix it because the leak is going to get worse and it's going to deteriorate even more. So the faster you can get it fixed, the better it is and the cheaper it is. That's all I need to say.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Good statement.
Hi, Janet Schill, 228 East Lake Shore Drive. My question, I don't live here full-time, so this is kind of all new to me. My question is, what is the levy based on? Is it on appraised value or what?
Yes.
Appraised value? Okay.
Yeah, it's appraised value of your land. So
Okay.
not the levy, but the assessment. Then there's a
Okay.
levy percentage from the assessment.
Not the house on it.
Not the house on it. It's not property value.
Just land?
Land value. You see it on your
10%
county.
of the land value?
No. If you look at your county statement that gives you your property value, your land value, it'll give you a land value. It'll give you a land value and then an assessment, which is what, 20% of that land value. That's how the county taxes you. But your land value, for example, I live on Lake Thunderbird and my land value is $30,000. So we take 36% of that, whatever that number is. The lakefront owners are capped at $7,400. Then we decide what levy percentage of that $7,400 we're going to charge.
Okay, so there's going to be, so the assessment is going to be raised for 2021, correct?
Correct.
The assessment.
And also a levy is going to be attached.
Well, it's replacing the old SID fee. I hope everybody understands that.
Oh, so the levy actually is the old SID?
Yeah, the old SID fee was an assessment with a levy percentage. We used to pay 4.5% of your previous assessment. It's the same thing, except the assessment that we're coming up with is through the settlement and it's based on land value instead of the way we used to do it.
Okay, well, you were using the terms and I was like, I don't know what it's based on and
It's replacing your SID fees.
It just sounds like my taxes are going up.
If you live on the lake, they are.
On the lake, they are, and on the golf course.
That's a fair comment.
Okay.
And I will tell you from people that live, and some people that live on the lake, we've kind of spotted, some of them are not at the full $30,000. Some of them, their land value is $15,000. So if you take 36% of $15,000 and you live on the water, your assessment may be $5,000. So if we charge 10% of $5,000, it's only $500, not $740. So it's all based on your land value. You have to go look for your land value to determine your exact number.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Dave Gerger, just on her note, 10% is if you don't pay off the levy.
Yes.
Up front, it's 10% per year that they're charging you for carrying it on their books.
Right.
6% interest.
Pardon?
What's 6% interest?
No, if they approve 10%, it's the 36% of the county assessment of your land.
I understand.
And then they take that and they say
They say, but
10% of that 36%, if you don't pay it off up front per year to pay it off, so roughly 15 years, I believe.
take about 15 and a half years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's include $3,960 in interest on your second.
Right. So, and then on this, what I actually came up here for is, I mean, I understand you're just starting out in this and got a big mess to do and got books to create for this. And until we see the books created and the assessments coming in, it's gonna be hard to tell what exactly our budget is, but have you thought about possibly trying to get volunteers as a budget committee?
That's a great question.
For suggestions for you guys to come up with, for her to review and take some of the load off of her to give her something else to do.
I think she's actually brought that to us individually about forming different committees. What have you talked about?
Well, I've got the 5 committees back here, but right now, we're supposed to be talking about the levy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Right,
you're
but
gonna have
the
a
question-
moment that you're on our calendar, to discuss some other things as
Right,
well.
but I mean, it can't come up with the levy and budgeting and trying to figure out how we're gonna fix the amenities.
I can tell you what I've been doing right now, Mr. Gruber, is I've been meeting with vendors, I've been meeting with roofers, I've been meeting with tree people, I've been meeting with anyone that I can gather my numbers, pool people, so that when it is time, and I know what the levy's gonna be and what my income is to work with, then I'll be able to plug some of those numbers in for those expenses. I will have 2 bids, if not 3, on anything that's gonna be more than a $5,000 expense. So that can tell you right there that I'm gonna be doing a whole lot more legwork than what we've done in the past. The other thing I can tell you is that, once that budget is put together, it will be a rough draft, so that we will be able to bring it back and review it at a meeting before it goes to approval. I have, both of the superintendents from the golf courses, I've got the park and rec superintendent, they've all come to me with their wish list. We're meeting with salesmen to get prices and leases on equipment, so I'm doing my legwork now that I haven't been able to do because I hadn't been able to start on the budget.
Right, but
So-
I can understand everybody's concerns here.
Right.
I'm just thinking, trying to think out of the box. The more people you get involved with this, the better off.
In some cases, you are right.
Except for Philip.
Okay, a good question, and what I wonder, you got lots on the lake, okay? Like my personal thing, I have lots right up here, okay? Actually, it's 2 lots. I have them joined, okay? That's still 2 lots according to what I understand, okay?
Sure.
But one's on the water and one's not.
Yep.
So the one that's not is not a lake lot, is that correct?
Correct.
Again, you have to look at your county tax record. And we have nothing to do with that. You look at your county tax, if they tax you that way, perfect. If they tax you a different way, if both of them are considered water property, there's nothing I can do about that.
That same water property on it one way or another, does it? I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't matter, it may not say water, but whatever your land value is, based on what the county assessor has given it, that's what we have to go by, that's it.
Because they had joined them, you see, and that's what I'm saying. I've heard that before. They had joined the lot.
Yeah.
But they said, no, they still count it as 2. And I'm going, that's not the way I'm taxed.
So you get a research.
I know on my tax bill, I have 2 lots, and it just has 2 different parcel numbers, but it's all in one bill.
There you go. That's the way mine is. So that's, I'm assuming that's the way it'll be.
Anything else?
Well,
Is that it?
It just has one bill.
Oh, where are you?
I got a 5 o'clock meeting.
Well, you got what?
He was suddenly moving along with, you know, and I'm saying, I agree, I got a 5 o'clock.
Yeah, listen, guys, at this point, I move to set our levy percentage at 10.
Well, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been,
Let's have a little discussion though.
is there any discussion on it?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it a little bit. Well, you know, I'm not satisfied with it personally, but I will tell you that sitting up here is Lake Thunderbird, Lake Chinook, and I'm on a golf course. So if I vote for 10%, it's I'm paying the bill. You know, so too. You And that's, and I, I hate that we have to do this, but we're in a position where we need to take a bold step. And that's what apparently is going to happen. We'll see. And that's all I got to say. Okay. There's a. So
Are you
call for the question.
gonna pick up mine?
No, sir, no. I saw what you're looking for, so I'm not going to pick yours.
The motion has been moved and seconded that we set the levy at 10% for 2022.
Correct.
No more discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed is none. So that's the levy for next year, folks. Okay, moving along. Buoys on Lake Thunderbird. If you remember the conversations for the last two meetings, we've had orange buoys pop up for any number of various reasons, none of which were asked. Sid was not asked, can I do this? And they just appeared. So you sent letters.
I took care of the docks.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything about
I'll
buoys.
handle that.
Okay.
So I brought that up in a meeting, and I said during that meeting I was going to visit with those property owners that had those buoys, just to find out what their reasoning was, why they were doing it. Was it fishermen? Was it, what was it? And unfortunately, I've done nothing, and I apologize for that. I've had other things going on with this, so I kind of pushed that down at the bottom of the stack, and I think that is something that Betsy
Yes.
can get on a lake safety boat and
Yes.
drive around and see, get some addresses, and have some conversations with those lake owners and figure out why they're putting them out. They're not on the main parts of the lakes, they're all in coves. So I'm assuming that they're trying to just keep, they're not trying to keep big boats out there because they're in coves. So they're keeping fishermen away, I'm guessing. But I wanted to kind of find that out before we made any decisions.
All right, can we make sure that this gets done before the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Because this is unacceptable that we don't deal with this.
Thank you,
Supposed to
Betsy.
be taking a boat ride tomorrow night.
There you go.
Docks on the lake, same question.
Docks on the lake, we had old business from the Conleys. I'm not sure if they're here today. We did speak with our attorney. They suggested we send a letter from SID requesting that the additional 16-foot section that had been added after the dock was approved be removed. We said that November 1st was a reasonable amount of time, at which point we will get an attorney involved and move forward. There are some penalties by not conforming to the policy of not getting boat stickers, boats not being able to run on the water. I mean, there will be some repercussions if they don't comply, but we've taken the first step, and before the next meeting, we ought to be able to have a better report of any. I haven't heard a word from them. I've sent the letters, they've gone out, I haven't heard a word.
What lake were they on?
Thunderbird. They are. As of today, they are still in place. I drove by there. Hadn't been touched. Didn't even see a car in the driveway.
Betsy, you want to talk about the election committee?
Yes, sir. I've got the form back on the back table. I believe I had 4 people in our last meeting that signed up. I've got a few more that have mentioned today that they would like to participate. I think the one thing that we need to make sure that everyone on the volunteer understands is that if you are on the committee, you would not be able to run as a commissioner. So I made that little note on the bottom. I don't want someone to sign up and then be upset because they couldn't run. But hopefully before hopefully before November 15th, we will have everything in line with the dates. We'll have a certain amount of time to nominate. We'll have a certain amount of time for people to campaign. We will have a certain amount of time for the voting to be sent out, and it'll have to be sent out to all property owners. Out of state, they'll have 3 options of how to vote, which would be via email. You'll be able to bring in a paper ballot or submit a ballot online. We've got forms that we've added to our website, so those forms will be out there. as well as any other forms that we discussed, that's where we're gonna put those blank forms. So you'll be able to download them at home, print them off, fill them out, bring them to us, scan them to us. We're gonna make it as easy as possible. But before the next meeting, we ought to be able to have a meeting with our committee and have some timelines put into place, and I'll share that with everyone.
Question. You're gonna have a ballot for every piece of property?
No, sir, there's gonna be ballots for every property owner. So we will send a ballot, they will have 3 ways to do their voting. It will be up to the property owner to,
So if a corporation.
So when they get in-
owns a property-
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of rules around that election. When we get to that part, in the next meeting, I promise you it'll be really thorough about who can vote, how many votes you get per property, when, all that kind of stuff. I just don't want to get into it today. but
yeah, we'll
appreciate
literally
it.
have a timeline. Every 30 days, it'll tell you what we do next, so everyone will know where we're working from.
Okay, Base Heart Campground proposals. So everybody will know, we're looking to make some improvements at Base Heart. The campground, it needs to be upgraded desperately. There's 2 proposals in-house right now. We think we need to publish that we're accepting proposals for Base Heart, so everybody has a fair chance to submit a proposal on it. And they'll have 30 days, and we're gonna send that letter out.
Yep, I'd like to.
We'll post it,
We're gonna post it
on
by
the
November
website.
1st.
yeah.
So by December 1st, anybody that wants to add the additional proposal can do that, and then we'll review them and talk about them in that December meeting. We want to move timely just because any repairs that need to be made, this is really the time to do it, thank you, Devin, so that they're ready for spring. You know, RVing is huge, so we want to be able to jump on board with that if we can.
Okay, fire hydrants. I'm gonna take this one since it's been on my back for a long time. Going back years and years and years, 3 commissioners of Cherokee Village SID, even before the city was formed, signed an agreement with Quapaw Water Company, which is now Cherokee Village Water Company, to fund hydrants. Since the settlement is in place, we no longer have any involvement in the fire department or fire protection, therefore we have no connection to hydrants. Going back to our budget needs, this is an extraordinary amount of money, over $100,000 is being paid out, and it's been quite controversial. I have never been able to understand why it was struck to start with, except to expand the water company. There is now a controlling water board. It's Cherokee Village Water Works. SID has nothing to do with it. So I'm going to ask for a vote for my fellow commissioners to rescind that agreement and notify the water company we are no longer going to subsidize fire hydrants, since that's what it's supposed to have been for. But I had to wait until we resolved whether this was going to be approved or not in terms of bill. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I so moved.
You so moved?
Yeah, that we discontinue.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's part of SID. I think it should be a city function. And I think that they should work that out. And I will second that motion.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we send a letter to the water company. I'm much in favor of giving them at least 30 days to get this thing through. I think it's not fair to just not send a check. So we'll notify and proceed to withdraw or dissolve the settlement agreement, not settlement agreement, God, I don't, the agreement with the water company. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So done.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
What are the different colors that the hydrants mean, do you know? There's red, there's black, and there's yellow.
There's
different flow rates and pressure.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
They've been doing some mapping on those so they can read automatically those flow rates. So
Phil,
that was part of
Peter.
the last thing that enhanced our insurance deal
Okay.
and gave us a favorable rating.
So a fireman can pull up on it and know what it is right away.
That's correct.
So it's much higher.
That's
So,
correct.
There's a color code that the chief or one of the firemen, I don't know the code off the top of my head, but
that's true.
Okay, in the interest of time, there are the financials, year-to-date income report. You can read those at your leisure. I'm gonna dispense with reading them and go forward. New business. Eccles request for access for water and electric poles for his new build. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, Mr. Eccles is here.
Okay.
And when we originally spoke to, I believe, Mr. Joe, I'm not sure which commissioner I asked the question to, but he came back and said that we needed to speak to the water department to determine what the process would be to put the water in. The electrical pole was pretty standard, but the water wasn't. And Mr. Eccles can tell you, he went back and spoke to the water company and he can tell us what they said.
Thank you for your consideration. I'm requesting an easement in the Omaha Center addition behind this building along the SID property for water and electric, which would include internet. The water line is estimated to be 2 inches, 18 inches deep on the SID property. I did speak with the water department. Tom there came out and we looked over everything. And he said it'd be way easier to do it on the SID side than going down into the trek of the street. And we want to avoid going into the trek of a street if possible. So 18 inches deep, that's for the water, 2 inches.
2-inch pipe.
I'm not sure I understand. You have property behind,
Yes,
is it attached to Lake Omaha?
yes.
So you want to, is it my understanding you're trying to plug into the water and the stuff through this building?
No.
What are you trying, I don't understand what you're trying to do.
He's, I have a little background on this. This has been going on a couple of years. And I see Bruce is there, and he's been on P&Z as well. Anyway, this Omaha addition back behind us here has been kind of a squabble, if you will, over the years. Mr. Eccles has bought 2 lots down there now, I think, and he's going to build a house down there. Now, the property for, and Lord knows I don't know why it was even, got to where it did, but it did not contain a utility easement, along with some other difficulties with it. And so I went down there and looked at it some time ago, and at that time, looked where the pole was, no problem with the pole, and we were asking where the water was going, and I'd simply suggest that maybe Betsy or Ray go down there and look and show him what the water is, and if there's no problem with it, then I have no problem with just granting it. I'm okay with it, and that's all I know. I didn't make anything up.
Are you sure?
So right now, there's currently no water and the pole doesn't go down the road. So they're gonna have to bring a pole down closer to where his
Yeah.
lot will be. There's no development back there yet at all. I think Mr. Eccles has been keeping the road cut because there's no paved road. He's been doing some stuff back there while he's been clearing. So really, in my opinion, I feel like adding this water line and this utility pole may promote some more growth and some building back
It
there.
will promote growth back there, and we should do it, it's my view. But we need to know where it is and make sure it doesn't, damage any of our properties.
Right.
You're right on with it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So has Ray looked at it or not looked
No,
at
the
it?
water company went back and looked at it and gave him his options. If he went down on his side of the road, it's gonna be where the road drops off. So the chance of it being damaged or, broken, that
It
kind
would be on the road. It
It would
would
be-
cut down into the road.
Yeah.
put in the water well.
Yeah,
Or we could just simply come on the SID side, put in water.
If we can do it, we ought to just do it, because
I agree.
we don't need to have any more. We got enough water in the roads
yeah,
around here.
I
anyway,
agree.
you know, so.
No other adverse impact, Joe, that you see?
No, I don't, personally, that was 2 years ago, I guess, when I went down there, one here, at least 2 years ago, so. But I don't see any, but I would suggest that we look at where that line's going, if you don't, I mean, other than that, you do
pull right
that,
and come meet you.
in fact, we can, I'd make a motion that we do it, contingent upon your checking it out.
Second?
All right.
Can I ask why, if it's been going on for years?
Well, we have not owned the lots for years.
No.
Recently, there are 10 lots back there. So,
You don't want to really go into the history
Okay.
of this. Sometimes you talk about an opportunity about it.
I'm just supposed to say aye.
I got a 5 o'clock meeting, yes.
I would make a comment, but I'm not going to. I'll leave this alone. I've been moved and seconded that we allow the easement.
Yeah, contingent upon their.
Any discussion?
All right, I'm contingent, I'll second it.
All right.
It's already been seconded.
Oh, sorry.
Again, all in favor, say aye.
Yeah, aye.
Aye, okay, thank you.
I can be forced into
Thank you,
anything.
Roy.
that's not
All right.
Are you giving them a copy of this?
They don't have a copy of that, I thought you did.
I did not make a copy for everyone, but I'll share. This was the other thing that was on Mr. Eccles' agenda,
Okay.
and it's this little sliver right
Well,
here that
you
he's
take
gonna
it.
talk about.
I don't need to know it.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
This is what he's
Mr.
gonna talk
Herring.
about, this little sliver of land.
Wait.
No,
Oh, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Eccles, he's not finished.
Are you not happy?
No, he's got
two things.
He had two things.
All right, go ahead.
Right here.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you for visiting with me today. From the warranty deed, legal description of my property as follows. Lot 9, Lot 14, Kima, second addition to Cherokee Village, and Part 8, Lot 14, Kima, second addition to Cherokee Village. The part that is recorded, starting the northwest corner, it reads the same way on my property and the property next door. I only have a sliver of the property next door on Lot 8, a small sliver. It's 17 feet at the back and 0 at the front. Both warranty deeds have the same descriptions. Dan from Homestead Title researched this title problem, and it goes back to 1970. He thinks that when the house was built, it was built a little bit too close to their line. So Cooper in 70, their engineers plotted out, okay, you can have 17 feet in the back and 0 at the front. And the first owner of Lot 8 said, okay, we're going to put a quitclaim and we're going to deed that to you. So all I own is that 17 feet in the back, 0 in the front, about 120-ish feet going back. I'm being assessed on 50% of Lot 8, but I only own 0.93%.
Gee.
So
That would be
I'm-
1%.
Yeah, you rounded it up to that.
Now we feel on Thunderbird.
So I'm requesting the SID tax be corrected to reflect the actual ownership of Lot 8 of my part, which is 9.3% for 2021 and forward years. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's smart.
Your turn.
No, any questions?
No vote right now. We're gonna talk to the county about this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Eccles.
Hi, my name's Mark Herring, Nancy French, and we're representing the Cherokee Village Lions Club today, and we'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to have our tournament this past year. Last year, we took our 2-day tournament and turned it into a 1-day event, just to make sure that we kept the date and kept our golfers satisfied. And we did pretty well last year. We did better this year, and we would have done better this year except for a couple of changes that were executed by the golf course. I'm not going to say Sid, because according to Sid, the budget was $1,000, and that there would be no fees raised for tournaments for the golf courses. But we went from $1,000 a day in 2019, in 2020, $1,000 a day, and for 2021, we went to $2,700 a day. So we jumped from a $2,000 tournament to a $5,400 tournament. That difference really impacts our abilities as a service club to be able to serve the community. According to the budget, golf tournament fees for 2021 were supposed to be $1,000 for the single parent scholarship, $1,000 for Tommy Bolt, $1,000 for the Rebel Classic, $1,000 for the Lions, $1,000 for Spring River Paramedic, and $1,000 for the NAEC, for a total of $6,000. That is not the numbers that were given to the tournament directors. Those went from $1,000 per day to $2,700 a day. Now that $2,700 did include all the golf carts. And this year, we used 18 golf carts. We were charged for 26 golf carts. So the difference is $416. That may not seem like a significant amount of money, but for a service club, it's a huge amount of money. We work very hard just to make what we do, and to be socked with that extra $416 for carts that we did not use. So we would like to ask that we be given consideration of $416, either as a refund for this year, or let it ride on account for next year, because we're coming back next year. And also, we have a check for $5,400. So we're willing to pay
Thank you.
that $5,400, and we're happy to pay
Thank you.
that $5,400. What we are not happy paying for is carts that we didn't use. And personally, it kind of feels like a penalty, because all golfers brought their own carts. And I'm not going to tell a golfer, you can't bring your cart because the carts are included in the price. They like their carts. Golfers like their own vehicles. So that's what we're asking Sid to consider today, is $416 either returned to us or hang on to it on account for next year. And also to, yeah, the most important thing, because we are coming back next year, and not only us, but the other tournaments as well, is to look at those fees and figure out how we got from $1,000 a day to $2,700 a day. And don't include the carts, because most golfers have their own carts.
Understand.
Can I speak on this one?
Yes.
All right, so I went back and found a letter from our previous GM, and it stated the 8th of June, and it pretty much laid out what everything was for. I'm not sure why it wasn't negotiated at that time, but I understood from speaking to the golf course that when you decided to do the 2-day tournament, that those carts were saved for y'all. No one else could rent them. There was no other source of income to take up for that difference. So I agree in the future that we need to look at what these fees are. I can't say that that's going to be a huge impact on reducing that $2,700, but if you look at what it's saying here, is that it gave you the option of charging your players more than what they charged y'all to let y'all recoup some of that money.
Which we did.
Okay,
But we
okay,
didn't use all of the carts.
okay,
And we've never used all of the carts.
Okay.
Nor will we ever
Okay.
use all of the carts.
Well, I would say that in our next year's plan, that we're gonna look at pulling those carts out separately and not charging you for that, giving you that option, and that will help reduce those prices for you.
Sure. What are we going to do for carts for this year that we didn't use for a total of $416?
I don't have a problem with
Let's credit
applying the
him for next
460.
year.
Yeah,
Let's credit
applying the
him for next
460.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll move
Yeah.
that we carry that forward to next year. A
Totally
$415
fine with
credit
that.
for next year, that's all right.
Second.
All right.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Yeah, I will say aye, but yeah, I understand what she's saying. If they were reserved for you, then no one else could use them. So in the future, we'll just have to be more communicating and say, you only need this many cards, we can put
Well,
those
we won't
aside.
know how many carts we're going to be using until
Yeah.
the day before the
Now,
tournament
or
begins.
you can tell people, if you don't have a cart, you'll have to rent one individually when you get.
And that's what we've always done in
There
the
you go.
past, is let the course,
Okay.
where are the golf carts? Go inside the clubhouse and take care of the cart.
Go rent 'em.
We never took care of carts.
Yeah, and
That
then,
was always
that way
covered
they're
by the
gonna,
course.
but they're gonna pay as golfers,
right.
they're gonna have to realize they're gonna have to pay you for the tournament, and
Right.
then they're gonna have to pay again to rent the cart.
Right, sure, that's the way it's always
Okay.
been in the past for 50 some odd years.
Okay,
And this year, it just became something unrecognizable.
Yeah,
okay, okay.
Technical.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you
I'd
guys
like
very
to
much.
say too, those rates went up for everyone, so all of the
I
other
realize
folks
that.
that
I've had
took- yeah.
conversations with a lot of the
Yeah.
tournament directors, and not one person is happy with a 2.5 times increase. I mean, you want to go up 10%, 20%, 30%, that's fine, but at 2.5 times, it's almost like, why are we having this tournament? So if you don't want to lose tournaments,
Right,
you know,
right.
this is supposed to be, you know, a fundraiser for the service club so that we can do good within the community. At $2,700 a day, we're going to do less good.
Yeah,
Well,
Got it.
we're gonna credit you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mark.
Mr. Greer,
Yes, sir.
we've conversed with you many times.
too many.
More than I
Excuse
ever
me.
care to think about ever again. We're going to follow your lead on your issue, and I want to set up you and Betsy to work out the details of when this happens, but it's all going to happen.
Can I say something?
I knew you would.
Hey, it wouldn't be me if I didn't.
No.
Again, I don't have a problem paying a SID fee on it, okay? I just want it done legally and right. And I would assume that it's gonna fall under this settlement assessment as well.
The new one.
That's correct.
So, I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, if you need to, give me a call. You know, I'm open anytime, so.
I'll be honest with you, I still have some issues. I'm not sure that everything is real level here, but it's time to put this to bed.
I understand.
It's time to follow the rules.
I mean, we need to start following the rules,
Yeah.
and it needs to apply equally to everybody.
And ergo, that's why we're doing
There
it.
you go, let's move on.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, my goodness,
Before the committee's here, we talked about that a little bit, but
what?
forming committees, and what have you got next on yours?
I've got refund for overpayment on SID fees,
Oh, no.
second page, under E.
I'll speak on that too, if you don't mind.
I wish,
I like to speak, I'm sorry. I've had a lot of people already, well, I won't say a lot of people, I've had a few people already come to the office and ask about the refunds and the process of how that's gonna work. We have the form in the settlement, which is a claim form. What I'm waiting on from our attorney, which I'm waiting on him to call back, is to kind of let us know a start date, how we publish that, how long that lasts, which I believe is a 90-day window, and just to make sure that I do it right. I hope that by the 1st of November, we will have the forms posted on the website. You'll be able to print them off. It tells you that you've got to provide receipts of what you've paid for the 18, 19, 20, and 21, if, I don't think anyone's paid for 21, but what you've paid has to be included with that, and then we will send those to the attorney on Mr. Hutchison's side, is the way that I understand it. That's the way that the form is. But we are getting questions. We are trying to put a plan in order on how we're going to do it. And that's going to be the first part, is getting a start date, having that 90-day window for people to come in, bring in their documents, fill out the forms, get them submitted to the attorney, and then we'll have the process on how those refund checks would start coming out. I believe that the board has mentioned, as the settlement said, the funds for those refunds come from the sales of the lots. So I think it will be an annual thing once we get to that point and determine what income has been made. Then we will be able to start telling what kind of refunds. But right now, we just don't know because we don't know how many people are going to ask for refunds. So that's going to be the first step. But it is part of what we'll be working on here in the next week.
Can you define receipt?
Receipt like, Mr. Eccles, I'm going to cover your name, but this is just a copy of one you gave me. Paid receipt for your taxes.
So you want something from the county?
So what it's telling you is that on this claim form, you must attach a paid receipt for what you have paid to be able to ask for a refund. So this will be your attachment that you would put with it for every lot that you're requesting those refunds on. Does that make sense? All right, thank you.
While you're there,
What's next?
You're on a roll.
forming committees.
Oh, yeah.
Forming committees. So in the back of the room, I've got 5 committees that I put back there. I've kind of grouped our park and recs together, lakes, golf courses, Omaha Center, Thunderbird Center. What I would love is for everyone's great ideas to come together. If we can find one person for each committee to present to us your ideas. Do the research. What's it going to cost? What's the time is it going to take? Who's going to be able to volunteer? If you present that to us, it will make it so much easier for us to say, yes, we can do that, no, we can't, or let's make some changes. But it gives you a voice. It gives you an opportunity to put your ideas to work. Please sign up. I appreciate every ounce of any time that y'all can give to help us. This community needs us to all pull together. And this would be a great way for us to pull together, work together, and come out something positive on the other side.
Thank you, Betsy.
You're welcome.
Stocking the lakes, I don't want you to,
I'm going to say, I've seen a few things that have been mentioned about stocking the lakes. And yes, the lakes are usually stocked every other year. This is the year to stock them. When I spoke to Malone, Jay Malone is his name, who was the person that's done them in the past, what we had in 2019 was a $15,000 drop. What I've asked him to do is to give me a $10,000 proposal. He's going to do 2 lakes this year. Then next year he'll do the 5 lakes. We'll stay on our $10,000 budget and we'll be able to keep our lakes stocked. He tells us we've got some good fish, we've got some large fish. I really brought his proposal today hoping I could share it with anyone or everyone, but when he put on there 2 and 3 inch fish, I called him back and said, I'm not wasting my money on 2 and 3 inch fish. So I read to him what we had before. He's going to try to get us something similar in size. The catfish, the crappie,
bass.
so we're going to do this, okay? Don't give up on me. We're going to get some fish in that lake and we're going to keep it on an every other year. So that way all the lakes will get stocked. Yes, sir?
What's your name and where do you live?
What about the grass carpet?
Let's see.
They got about a 7-year lifespan. And I know I know there's been a lot of them dying out in the last year and a half.
So what he had originally proposed was some bluegill brim, some redar brim, and some black crappie. And the black crappies were 5 inch. What we had 2 years ago, or in 19, was 8 to 11 inch channel catfish, 5 to 6 inch largemouth bass, jumbo straight bluegills, giant crappies, giant redar sunfish.
Yes, but
He's
this
just-
is a drop completely separate from the game fish.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is grass control. Right.
That's
what it's for.
usually in the
And
spring.
I think it was 3 years, Joe, or 4 years.
It's in 19, last time we did it, I think 19 or 20.
so this isn't a fish, this is a chemical treatment?
No, it is a
Okay,
fish,
okay.
It's a grass carp.
It's called a grass carp, and we put them in, and I don't remember, usually you put them in the spring.
Okay,
And you put these in like October, fall time frame.
okay.
And the reason two reasons you put those more in the spring is because they eat, they feed off the grasses and stuff, and that's when that starts growing. And two, they also feed off of small fish.
Okay,
So those fish that we put in, I'm glad you went up in size, and that they'll have a chance to grow. And
okay.
so,
I will look into that and we'll talk about it again since that's a spring thing. All right, thank you, sir.
Now, property owners, anybody got comments they want to make?
You want me to take your picture, Peter?
Sure. The assessments you're making, and you were saying the lakes, can we hear me? On Lake Sequoia, a lot of us are lost a bunch of our property since you raised the lake so we can get through from Sequoia to Thunderbird. But we're being assessed for property that we cannot use because we have it flooded by the lake. For example, I know my parents have at least 17 to 18 foot into the lake. That is their property, but it's always covered with water. So what happens to the properties on Sequoia that are being assessed for being on a lake, but their useful property isn't there? And that's why a lot of the houses that look so close on Lake Sequoia is because the lake was raised. So just a thought about it and what could be done to even it out a little bit. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I got another one.
Who's timing him
I don't
anyway?
come to SID meetings too often because you guys are usually pretty good about doing things on your own. But anyways,
You don't
I
know
am
us.
confused. If we're paying into SID and there's the Thunderbird Center and there's the Omaha Center, it's this committee that could decide to sell, get rid of, dispose of, whatever that property is, but the people that are paying into it don't have any skin in the game. Is that true or is that a false statement?
The way I interpret it, it's a false statement.
Okay, that's a rumor that's floating around, but that's why I'm inquiring, how does it work? I'm paying my assessment, I'm paying for a golf course, I'm paying for this, and at some time they should have been paid off. But we're paying for all this stuff. When does it become ours? And not a corporate entity's. When do we know that it's never going to be
When
gotten
is
rid
there
of?
no longer assessment of benefit? Are you asking, when is the point that there is no longer an assessment of benefit?
Well, you're going to have to maintain things, so you're always going to be doing that. But a piece of property, this property is $100,000, let's say, and we've been paying in it since we started. So we've had to have paid off the property, but we still have to pay for the maintenance to the property. That's where I'm coming from, because it seems like in the past that any parcel could be sold off by SID without coming to the citizens who've been paying that assessment in. Well, it's happened.
It could.
It has happened. Not you guys. Well, I don't know. You might have been here then.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, things have happened where property can be disposed of, where the citizens that are paying in on that stuff, didn't have a say in it before it was disposed of. So that was the question. It might be a little bit confusing, and you don't have to answer me now, but if I could get with you to kind of figure it out, because I don't want to reiterate or...
I will tell you this, Peter, I think that the question is, now that, once we do these elections and we have 5 people up here who were elected,
Okay.
or at least 3,
Yeah.
then they will have been chosen by you. And so that's where you need to, once the people that are going to run for commissioner, you need to ask them what their thoughts are for the future.
Gave me another question.
Well, it's very much like city council. I mean,
Yeah.
city council decides what they're going to do with the town. You have to vote those guys in or out based on what they want to do. Same here.
But now, with the election of the commissioners, on a water board and on SID in the past, the commissioner could also take public office as either an alderman, a mayor, or a quorum court justice. At this election, can that same thing happen? If a person's on quorum court, can he still run for a commissioner? Or is there something in law that says, because there is things in laws where a police chief cannot run for mayor or things like that. So I was wondering, in this election, if I wanted to run for city council and I wanted to run for SID, is that a possibility or not? Thank you.
We'll look into that.
Thank you for that last question being very confusing.
Sorry.
I had no idea.
I want to make people think.
Yeah.
I thought I speak just best so you could rest.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Owens. Let me try to give you a little information up here that a lot of you may not know. In 1973, when the first assessment was made on the property owners of the SID, it was based on amenities that were gifted to the community, because when you're talking about paying off the amenities, they were paid off when we got them, to understand. We were not gifted the roads and the streets. They were separate. They were with the community. 1981, there was a reassessment because they put the South Golf Course, I believe, into use. All of your assessments were paid up in 2011. Anything you paid since 2011, you paid that was actually invalid under the law. The 2018 reassessment was invalid under the law because all of the initial assessments had already been paid. The only way that a SID, call it a district, can survive is that when you have your first initial assessment, you have to collect enough money and enough interest so you can live off the interest and keep your capital to keep drawing interest in the future. So when you set this thing up, when you start taking payments, you get more interest from the property owners and less from your capital. As time goes along, that shifts. So if you maintain your capital, now you've got interest coming in for your maintenance on your amenities when your assessments run out. The assessment ran out in 2011. So you've been paying since 2011, you've been paying, not what you're supposed to, but you did, no complaints. In 2018, when we got the reassessment, it was an invalid assessment because you only get one assessment for those amenities unless you had something new, and they had not. The judge at the hearing on Wednesday even made a remark that if he was ruling on the case as to whether the 2018 reassessment was invalid, he would rule them invalid. But he relied on the settlement agreement. Talk about the settlement agreement just a minute. Whoever agreed to this agreed to use land values that was set by the county. They did no reappraisal on the properties. For example, if you're off the lake and your property is appraised at $2,500, the county appraised it at 20%. They just automatically picked the figure out of there. No scientific number, they picked 36%. So if you got a $2,500 property, you pay $900. By the time you get your refund of $729, if you have a property with a house on it, that's 10% administrative and 20 cents for the attorney's fees for collecting it. You're going to end up paying $360 out of that $900. But that'll be after you get your refund. The people making the settlement, because it wasn't based on Arkansas law, could have used any figures. And I know it's people on the lake and on the golf courses have a bone to pick about that. But the reason the judge approved the settlement agreement, he relied on the Grunin versus IHOP decision back in 1973 that says if it's fair and equitable, he had 4 factors in this, and he ruled on that. But he did say in the hearing that he was hearing a case that he would, the original lawsuit, he would rule on 3 out of 4 in favor of the plaintiffs. Now, the reason he agreed to it was that if you don't agree to the settlement, it goes to trial. and the plaintiff went into trial, there'll be no more SID. The district is gone because they don't have any way to collect any money. The problem with that, and I pointed out in my objections to the settlement, was that the judge should not be approving a settlement that was in violation of state law. And state law is very clear, and I referenced that in the hearing. That was just to give you a little insight on your assessments and your levy on assessments. But you've been paid up since 2011. The 2018 was invalid. You should not be paying a dime. I understand where they're coming from. I don't want this community to die. I moved over here. I like this community. I don't want it to die. I do have a problem. Now, we're not talking about paying for amenities. We're talking about maintenance. Everybody paying their fair share. I live on the lake. I paid $100,000 more for my house than one just like it off the lake. I pay a lot more taxes on account of that. Cherokee Village is not going to be getting any more subsidization from the SID for street. That's 17%. So my taxes are going to go up in Cherokee Village, I bet you. And mine's going to go up more than somebody off the lake. I didn't mean to get into a bunch of personal stuff. I just want to try to explain to you about your assessment. Your assessments have been paid up. You're going to be paying over $30 million out of your pocket that you shouldn't be paying. Now, I don't know whether anybody's going to appeal or not. It cannot go into effect until you have 30 days to appeal, until all the appeals have been settled. So, I don't mind telling you, we're exploring an appeal now. If you want to get with me after the meeting, see me.
Well, you got a few more than 3 minutes, but I appreciate that, Mr. Owens.
I'm sorry, she gave me her 3.
Any other comments?
Any other comments?
Folks, I want to thank you for the way you conducted yourselves and the way you cooperated and your comments. I think they were all great. So with that, I move to adjourn.
I'll second that one.
We're adjourned.